Okay. So after we have this conversation, I'm turned up. I'm upset because I don't feel as though you're being genuine. Do you remember that?
No.
Okay.
Uh,
So you
we
don't
hadn't
remember
spoken
me?
again after that for like almost a year.
No, no, no. In the live of Don Trails that he started on your behalf. Not on your behalf. I'm sorry. Well, yes, on your
Yeah,
behalf,
it
but you
was
didn't
on my
ask him
behalf.
to.
It was on
Right.
my behalf. Yeah.
So in that live, I was turned up and I did address you in a manner where I felt as though you were being performative. I'm asking you, do you remember me saying that and feeling that?
No, I don't remember that at all. I remember you being apologetic. Like, not apologetic, but more like, you know what? I didn't realize that blank, blank, blank. But if I did blank, 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 then my bad. I'm sorry about that. I
And
wasn't.
this is where we have the discrepancy because the apology that I gave was to disrupting the live about the woman's essay. I
Yeah.
apologized for it
There
because people
was
were
no
adamant
essay.
that I did
Y'all did
it.
not interrupt nobody's essay. Why are we
I'm
going
not
to?
saying you said it, but that's what I was apologizing for. I was apologizing because people were adamant that I had done this thing and that I had interrupted this woman, and no one was letting up on the fact that I didn't.
So,
And this is where Wawa comes into the conversation and says that she's going to post the receipts to prove my case.
okay.
And that's also a part that you say that you don't remember.
No, we
However,
left
it was
off on a
part of the
high note.
conversation that I had with Dontrell, and it was part of the conversation that when me and Dontrell had it, he recalled that. So that was the last conversation that you and I had. Do we agree on that?
Wait, now you're talking about the one a year later.
I haven't gotten there yet, but prior
Okay.
to that, that was
So
the last
the way I
conversation we
remember
had.
that one, we left off on like a relatively high note, right? It was kind of like this thing where it was like my goal was to make sure that everybody like was on the same page, that you understood that I meant my apology, but also that the voice, like the trans people, like they felt their way, right? And there were, it just kind of felt like there was everybody got everything. And I might
Okay,
be
so that was the
misremembering
last
it, like,
conversation we had
but
until a
I
year
left that
later.
feeling like everybody got everything. Like y'all got y'all apology. Y'all didn't apologize to me. You didn't need to apologize to me, but kind of like the message that I was trying to get to you that I wasn't, I guess, able to get to you was getting to you. Like I felt like we left like on a really satisfied note. I didn't.
Last conversation we had until a year later,
Hmm?
approximately. Okay, so then a
Wait,
year
say it
later,
again. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I said, was that from your recollection the last conversation we had until a year later?
Yeah, that was my
Okay.
recollection until
And then a year later, you notice that Dontrell has me up in his background, and you say that you did not approve of him doing that.
hold on. I'm sorry. One more time. I'm so sorry.
So a year later, you notice that Dontrell has me in his background. You said earlier in this live that you did not approve of that.
And that's the year later. No, no,
Correct.
I wanted him to like leave the whole shit alone. Like he was being
So
irritating.
you
Like
didn't
he
approve.
was irritating the shit out of me. No, I didn't approve of that because
Okay.
he wouldn't just let the shit go.
Right. So
I don't know
Dontrell and
why.
I are having a conversation. Black Historian and King Virgo are in the box. You come up, and from my recollection, you came up upset, but you say that your anger was towards Dontrell and not towards me
One more time.
or towards the situation. You come up into the box during the live with me and Dontrell, and you say that you came in hot because of Dontrell and not because of me.
No,
So, what was the reason you came in hot to the conversation?
I was hot to you.
Okay. So, my question from you earlier was if you knew that I was telling the truth and you agreed with me that Trina should have been checked, and you no longer felt like I was doing drama because Trina should have been checked, and you know that I did not interrupt the woman's essay, what was the reason for you coming hot at me?
Because I thought we had reconciled everything.
But it wasn't we that we were talking to. I was talking to Dontrell.
Right. So it's
Right.
like a combination of all of
And
that.
Dontrell had
Like,
me up in his
I
background.
thought we had reconciled
But there
everything.
was
Did
no
we not
we. There
recognize?
was no you.
Okay. Did you and Dantrell not reconcile everything?
No, we did not. I had never had a conversation with Dontrell. Dontrell, till that day that I spoke to him, was denying his involvement.
Okay.
Okay. So even if you thought me and Dontrell had reconciled, why did you come up hot at me when you saw that your friend had me in his background?
He had you in his background.
You just acknowledged that he had me in his background.
So I don't know what you look like. Um. So I'm trying to picture it.
Dontrell had my profile in his background with the Powerpuff Girl, not my actual face, my
Oh,
profile.
okay. Okay. Oh, okay. Okay.
But you remembered 15 minutes ago,
Okay. All right.
right? You know what I'm talking about. You knew he had me in his background because you said 15
I
minutes
just
ago that
remember
you
the
didn't
jump.
approve
I
because you
remember
thought he was
feeling
being
like
messy.
the fact that it was being rehashed again, even though what we did a year ago felt like reconciliation.
With
But
you.
now you're saying it ain't had nothing to do with me. It was everything to do with Dan Trail, whatever.
But correct, but you
But I
should
was
have known that it
irritated.
had nothing to do
I
with
was
you
irritated with
because
Dan Trail.
the
I wanted to dead the shit. Like I would like, listen, why are we doing this?
right, but that wasn't the question. You came in hot at me, as you just admitted. But why were you hot at me when Dontrell had me in his background?
Misogynoir.
Okay. And do you understand that after the conversation with me and Dontrell, we did not get to come to a conclusion because I was blocked out of his live by one of his mods. However, prior to me being blocked, we did make some headway. Were you there for that conversation to see Dontrell apologize and admit his fault?
One more time.
Were you in the live still when Dontrell admitted fault and offered me an apology?
Most likely.
Okay, but
That was the
not
year
most
after?
likely. Do yes, then the year after that's where we are right
Yeah,
now in the
yeah, yeah,
timeline.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, so as you remember it today, do you remember Dontrell apologizing?
Hmm? Yeah, yeah.
You do remember, or
I don't. I don't.
okay, okay, that's fine. Okay,
But if you're
thank you.
saying he apologized,
I'm
then
not asking
I'll
you
go
to agree. I'm asking you if you
because it would
remember.
make sense.
Okay, so if the reason why I'm asking if you remember is because if you did hear him apologize and you say that you felt like our last conversation was left on a high note, but you also admit to coming into the conversation hot towards me, what is your issue with me today and how am I starting drama by reacting to you admitting that you came in hot after a reconciliation between you and I?
Because I felt like the rehashing of it all was unnecessary.
But why do you get to decide what is necessary and unnecessary when another grown man is having a conversation with me one on one that you were
Hey,
not
none of my
involved in?
business.
It is your business. You made it your business when you came into the box
Well,
screaming at
then
me.
if it's my
So,
business, then I feel like you drag shit out. Like,
okay, so you felt like I was dragging the conversation out, even though you saw that my picture was in his background.
no, I feel like there was a lead up to it. It wasn't just he went live with your picture. There was a lead up to it.
Even if there was a lead up to it, if
Right.
you, but so you were under the impression that Dontrell and I were resolved from the conversation where he starts the live on
I'm
your
gonna,
behalf.
I'm gonna put it to you like this. I'm just gonna be honest. There's a lot of shit that I realized after this Jones situation, like over the years, like low key, high key, after doing a lot of introspection, there's a lot of shit that I was enabling for Dantrell, trying to be a good friend or whatever, and I was enabling a lot of bad behavior. And this is one of them ones I like. I'll just take the L.
But that's not what I'm asking you to do.
You don't. No, I'm
If you
doing
truly
what I
don't,
want to do. Like, and this is what
yeah,
I'm saying.
but this is the same situation that we were
Remember,
in
we
your
said the
live
apology
before.
when the apology is organic. That's when I'm gonna give it.
Yeah, but it's not
All right.
organic if
Well,
you say
now
I'm
it's
gonna just
organic
take
right
the
now.
L. for things that you say you don't remember. I'm not
Well,
asking
this is
if
what
you
I'm
don't
saying.
remember, I'm accepting that.
I don't need to remember all the details to know that I was in a space where I was just enabling my boy despite him being misogynistic.
But that's not what I'm trying to get to. And I think you're missing the point. I'm not holding you accountable for how
Okay.
Dontrell acted. I'm only asking about
So
you.
you just want to be
So
heard.
I'm just
You want to be
clarifying.
able to get your side out.
No, I'm leading
No,
up to
no. I think.
something.
What are we doing?
I'm leading up to today. So if you recognize that you came into Dontrell's live hot at me, but I was in his background. So the
Are
conversation
you
I
trying
was
to say that you
summoned.
were never the problem?
No, it's not what I'm saying at all. But I think that you keep trying to cut me off because you want this conversation to be done. But I don't really think that you can try to tell me when something is dragged on or when something goes on too long if you're not willing to
I
dead the
mean, I got to be
conversation
up
here
in
and
an hour.
now.
So, but go ahead.
Okay, I apologize. I didn't start this live for you, but this is a few years worth of stuff that's being talked about in one night. I'm trying to move quickly through it as possible, but you keep taking segues to try to give these little apologies to stop the conversation. So, do you want to pick it up another day or can I finish?
Oh, come on.
Thank you. So, if you knew that you came in hot towards me when Dontrell was the one who had me up in his background, how do we get to today when you're calling me drama when you know the last conversation I had with you, you was hollering at me?
I thought, I think that you do messy talk. I thought, I think that that live was a production, was content for messy talk.
Okay. And so
Now, now,
your
now,
issue,
hold
but it
on,
was
hold
my
on, hold
issue.
on.
Okay, go ahead.
Now, I am admitting that now that we're speaking about it, there were just a lot of excuses that I was making for D. And I was engaging in misogynoir when it came to that. Misogynoir definitely does shape how I view you.
Okay. Okay, I can appreciate that answer. But even how you view me,
Some of
and
it is
the
based
way that you
on,
view what's messy though, because we've
some of
already
it is based
established,
on your participation in messy talk.
and yes, and I was getting ready to address that. I again haven't gotten an example of what you believe to be messy talk, but at the end of the day, my comings and goings on this app, what I find entertaining, didn't have anything to do with the live because number one, I wasn't the host, and number two, when you came in there, if you feel like I'm a part of Messy Talk, do you think that the people who came into those lives have never seen me before?
What do you mean?
That I mean, I feel
When
like
you say
that
those
was
people, what people are you talking about?
whoever you were concerned about.
Peach.
Did you were you under the okay? So you were concerned about Peach. So were you under the impression that Peach and I have never spoken, and
Oh
that
no, I
you
know
and
you've
it,
spoken to Peach.
okay? So do you felt like it was
And I
your
know that
responsibility to warn Peach about me?
it felt like it was important for me because of a conversation that we've had was to
Hmm.
remind Peach.
Okay, so you wanted to remind Peach about me based off the conversation that you and I have had.
No, based on a conversation Peach and I have had.
Okay, and based off of the conversation that you and Peach have had, were you under the impression that Peach had forgotten those conversations and was not in that live on their own accord?
Um, they said they were getting ready to go.
Okay. So without disclosing private conversations that you've had, were you under the impression that Peach was not getting anything out of the conversation and therefore was leaving because they did not feel as though the conversation was productive?
Mm, Peach didn't want to be in a situation where they had to navigate being on a panel with you and being friends with Banana and myself.
Okay. So you're saying that Peach does not want to get in between themselves and mine and Banana's issue.
Uh, can you restate that? Can you reframe that? I don't know what
When
the.
you said that you said that Peach had expressed to you that they did not want to be in the middle of
Yeah,
Banana and I.
in a situation where they know how Banana and I feel about you.
Okay. So they felt like they were in the middle of like, my friends don't feel comfortable with you, so I don't want to go against my friends by being in panels with you, kind of
I
thing.
mean, eventually, if that's a conversation you want to have with them, I think you should figure out
Okay.
if they feel safe or if they're cool with you being on the panel.
Okay, no problem. So that circles back to what harm have I caused Banana other than holding them accountable for anti-blackness, in your opinion?
All I know is that they haven't felt good about you. They feel like there's the draggings go on for way too long. The accountability lives or whatever they feel unrelenting. They feel like they go on for a long
Real
time.
quick, my phone is about to die and my charger is not working. So if I drop, I'm gonna try and be back. I'm literally on 3% and I'm trying to get my charger to work. I didn't mean to interrupt this.
No, I
I know
appreciate
this
you.
dialogue is important. Um, I will say this though before I go. I do think that this question was answered before because we did talk about how Banana had said that you had called them white, and I think that that was probably the harm that is being talked about right now because
I
that's
guess I didn't hear it.
why
I
this
thought
is.
you guys were reading comments. I didn't hear it come from Solid's mouth, so that's why I asked again because I
Yeah,
did
you
not hear his
called
answer.
them black.
Okay. Okay, so Banana's grievance with me is that I called them white, and that is the harm that you feel like I have caused. That felt like you needed to warn Peach or have warned Peach about me.
Mhm.
Okay, were you aware that the draggings that you're speaking of have not been centered around one issue, that they have been a repeat patternistic issue with Banana and their involvement in anti-blackness?
It,
No, you weren't.
no.
Okay. So from
Are you
your
trying?
from
Like, are you trying to like? Where are we going with this? Like, I'm telling you. You asked me a question. I'm giving you the answer with the information that I have. Right.
and that's why
So,
I
like,
asked you, were you
proving
aware? That's it.
that I posthumously was incorrect. It doesn't matter to me. Like,
Posthumously, you're alive.
posthumously, I'm alive.
Yeah, posthumous means after death. You are alive.
Okay. All right. Post hoc that I
Okay.
was incorrect for it, right? Because I was missing information.
Yeah, and no, yeah, that's why I am asking the questions because I want to know, and so that I'm clear and not
Right. So
assuming
what
that
I'm
you
saying
didn't
is
have all of the information.
I acted the way I felt was best with the information that I had.
Okay. And that's why I have to clarify because the information that you have is incorrect. And I get it. You do not have to, I'm not asking for a campaign against Banana, but I am going to call out patterns and I am going to continue to stand against the things that I have heard them say. And more recently, have been calling Phoenix a gremlin, as well as searching high and low across the app for Black Wing Zero to hold him accountable for some anti-Indigenous things that he said, which he absolutely deserved it. But I did not believe that Banana was the right person to orchestrate that live against him because of their history with anti-Blackness and the fact that they had not, and still have not to this day, accounted for the anti-Blackness for calling Phoenix a gremlin. And I do feel that yourself included keep answering for them. And the excuse is always that they don't feel comfortable. And my comment was, if they were a white person, would we be accepting that as an excuse?
No,
Okay, so why the fuck does Banana get to feel comfortable when a question is being
because
asked towards them
indigenous
about
is not the same thing
anti-blackness?
as white.
No, it isn't, but they are not black, and being anti-black towards a group of black people still needs accountability, and you cannot use
No.
your uncomfortability as an excuse.
Okay.
So do you disagree with that because they're indigenous?
No, I think that if you called them a white woman, I don't think you really care about their indigeneity in the first place. I don't think uh, um, I don't. How do you feel about Black and Indigenous solidarity?
I think that BIPOC is a myth, and I don't think that this is an issue for me. I think that sometimes people um, get BIPOC as an excuse to enter into conversations that they should not enter into. And I feel as though there are Black people that allow other persons of color to enter into these conversations and coddle them when they step out of line because they are also a person of color. I'm not denying that people of color are victims of white supremacy. But I do not think that they should get a pass to enter into these conversations and be anti-Black towards us and have Black people tokenized by saying, well, so and so doesn't feel like I'm anti-Black, and so said that I didn't have to. When I see these issues, I see Black people coming to the forefront to answer for their non-Black friends and mutuals. And I stated that earlier. My
Yeah,
issue with bananas is that they are claiming that they are not anti-Black, but they are actively watching Black women and femme presenting people answer for them every single time they get called out.
everybody's anti-Black. So
Correct. But when people are outside of our community are held accountable and they try to weaponize their uncomfortability, we don't stand for it. And I don't think that a POC gets to have that same latitude.
okay, all right.
And so, yes, I have absolutely said that the B is separate because what happens is that people will take their IPOC identity and use it as a weapon, just like right now, to escape accountability that is absolutely due.
For
And
being
even if I
anti-Black.
am not the one that they want to speak to, which is absolutely fair, but they're not speaking to anybody about what they did, let alone the person that they made the comments toward.
Okay, all right, that's fair.
So even if you felt as though I have a problem with your friend, are you aware that Peach stated that Banana held those lives behind their back and that they did not co-sign the lives that Banana was holding?
There apparently there's a different story that right, and I'm not. I can, Peach isn't here.
You're right, they are not here, but I had this conversation with Peach on a live
Hmm.
and multiple people heard this. And so if you're saying that there's a different story, I'm just trying to gather where your head was at. So if you didn't know that, that's where my
I had
confusion
no
is coming
idea.
from.
I had no idea. Like legit, today is the first day I've heard anything about a gremlin.
And that's why I'm confused, Solid. Do you see where my confusion is coming
Because
from?
I got a story after the live, and then they talking about gremlins and shit, and I'm like, wait, okay. So I mean that it is what it is.
So
Like
when we addressed Peach and Peach and Phoenix got a chance to finally speak to each other, I asked Peach the same questions that I'm asking you about Banana's involvement. And they stated to me that they had no idea that Banana was hosting these lives on their behalf. They had no idea that Banana had called for Thomas Bishop to threaten Phoenix. They had no idea that Banana had called Phoenix a gremlin and put her picture up in the background and made fun of her looks. But you're telling me that there's a different story.
yeah, there's a story that Thomas Bishop said something, and Banana was not by their phone when Thomas Bishop had said something.
He threatened to set her on fire and then lied and said that she also obtained his address and sent him an unsolicited package.
That's the last nigga need to be saying. Anyway, all
Correct,
right,
correct. And now we
all
are
right.
finding out that he is unhinged and had no business. We get that. But my confusion as to the Peach and Banana situation is I'm not under the impression that they are not friends, but I am a little confused as to how you feel as though Peach should not be speaking to me when I'm not incorrect about Banana's anti-blackness. Do you not think it's anti-black to call a black woman a gremlin and put her picture up on the background?
Absolutely, Again,
Do you
today's
not think that it was
perspective.
anti-black to call for a man, whether he said those things or not? You called for a man to attack a black woman.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Again,
Did you
today's the
do
first
you
day that I've heard about any of that.
and that's my confusion. My
Okay. So
confusion and my issue with what you did
my
today comes from the
experience
fact that
is
I expected you to know these things.
and right the aftermath of whatever had gone on with Banana. That was my information. That's the way I was informed. I operated based on the information that I had. Now I have new information. I'll reassess.
Okay. And that's all I asked you earlier is that even if you don't believe me, even if you think that I can't be trusted, whatever your feelings are, no matter our interaction, I would implore you to speak to people that you do trust or even gather the information on your own. And I will even send some clips your way if I can that these conversations have absolutely happened. And Bratz held a live to hold Banana accountable and was told that Banana is not coming because they did not feel well. And Black women had to get up there and account for what Banana said. And to this day, Banana has not shown up to speak about the disparaging comments they said about Phoenix, enlisting Black men to attack her and allowing them to sit in that live and say that they wanted to set her on fire and lie and say that she was sending out unsolicited packages to people and doxing. So, with that being said, I understand that Banana is your friend, but as a Black man, regardless of how you feel about me personally, I think that it is in your best interest to either hold your fucking friend accountable or ask them to come and have a conversation with the people that they have harmed instead of caping for them just because you don't like me. Because the anti Blackness doesn't just affect me. If there are Black women that you do like, then you have got to stop caping for Banana just for the simple fact that they are indigenous. Because regardless of what I have said to them, it doesn't change the fact that what the fuck they did is true and accurate, and it happened. It happened in 4K, and Black women were being questioned about it. And Banana did not show up for the people that they claim to care about, for the community that they claim to care about. You're watching Black women pick up a fucking sword for you, and now you are doing it. And Banana is nowhere to be found because their fucking feelings are hurt. Even if I did call Banana white, so fucking what? On the only on the strength of that is not an excuse for you to not be held accountable for your anti-blackness. If you don't want to talk to me, you can talk to the other people that you have harmed because I wasn't in Bratz's live. Why they didn't show up for Bratz? Why didn't they show up for Phoenix? Why didn't they show up when we were in AJ's live? They were supposed to be mutuals with AJ as well. AJ wanted to speak to them about their feelings. But when Banana says that they did not know that Phoenix was Black with their picture in the background clearly Black, that's a problem for me too, because why are you speaking up for communities if you can't even fucking recognize us? What you got to say about us and you don't even know what we look like? You can't recognize a Black woman when you see one, but you up here caping for us? How? How? And if we're going to talk about indigeneity, we're going to talk about BIPOC. You knew she wasn't fucking white when you put that picture up there. So it really didn't matter what fucking classification you thought she belonged to. You knew she wasn't pasty. So if Banana is indigenous and Banana feels as though their indigeneity parallels with Black people, then why would you call any melanated person out of their fucking name? But then get mad and cry and complain and have people coming at me because they thought I called them white by saying that their actions were that of white women by saying that they just couldn't have the conversation. I can't do this right now. My mental health. We don't accept that from anybody else, and that's not okay. Because the same Black women that you called drama, the same person that you called reactive abuse, we are the fucking ones on the front line having to take accountability for our fucking BIPOC friends that never show up. It's BIPOC until it's convenient. It's BIPOC when you getting coins and people is hollering, let them in the box, let them in the box. It's BIPOC when you getting mod all over this app. But as soon as somebody wants to hold you accountable for something that you did, we white woman and we white manning. And that's not fair. Because when you typed in that comments that I hurt Jamie off of their feelings because you allowed them to come to you and use you as a fucking shield. And even if you had an issue with me, as a Black man who advocates for the entirety of the Black community, how could you not recognize that that is exactly what they were doing? Capitalizing off of your already issues with me. Am I wrong?
I don't think you're being fair to the situation. I think you're asking for something that I wouldn't have had the wherewithal to do.
Can you elaborate? Because I don't.
Yeah, you and I had already had bad runnings, and then to find out even further, right? So I don't want further interactions with you. Then to find out, right, that someone else who I care about is having bad runnings with you, but then I'm expected to investigate.
So on the strength of your community, because unfortunately,
Listen,
I'm going to try to say this as delicately as possible because I understand we have different viewpoints, but when the world sees you a certain way, we understand that people, even in our community, have a different experience, right? We know that light skinned people have a different experience than dark skinned people. We can agree with that, correct?
mhm.
Okay. And just because a person is Black doesn't change the fact that their lighter tone gives them a certain privilege in this society than others. You disagree?
Not necessarily, no.
Okay. So
I
if we
think that I
see,
think that I can recognize all of it. I think I could recognize misogyny, misogynoir. You know what I'm
but
saying?
it seems as though
Colorism.
it seems as though it was over your head
Well,
when a lighter toned
because
individual
because the
is telling
possibility
you,
for me was just straight up was that all of those things are true, and I'm sure you experienced that. I'm pretty sure you experienced the angry black woman trope, all of that, all of that. But just on a personal level, you and I, as individuals, don't get along.
yeah, you already admitted that it was massage noir. So if you know that you're operating under massage noir and you also
Always,
understand that
always,
banana
always. Like I'm.
is a lighter toned individual, you don't think that you both were operating under that same trope that I was just an angry Black woman and you didn't think to yourself that maybe you should investigate whether or
No,
not your friend was
I thought
anti-Black?
that I thought that on an individual level, specifically, you and I just don't get along.
But you just stated that you allowed that to creep into the conversations that you had with Banana because you felt as though like you guys had something in common that I was basically bullying the both of you.
Yeah, I didn't investigate any
Okay.
further.
So on the strength of the entire community, I feel as though you should have maybe investigated those claims so that you could have maybe addressed your friend on their anti-Blackness, regardless of if it was coming from me, because I wasn't the only person that was addressing them.
All
And
right.
I feel like were you not active in those lives or you didn't see those lives where other people wanted to address them as well?
No.
Okay. And this circles back to the same conversation that we had about Christy Lou Who, where you feel as though the people that are close to you are automatically believed because you have an issue with the people who are bringing the information to your purview. And I mean, do you think that being objective is a tool that you would need for advocacy?
Yeah.
Okay. So going forward, what are we going to do? Because I don't want to have you pop up in no more lives trying to warn your mutuals about me because I'm not understanding how I'm drama by standing up for my people, or engaging in messy talk, as you call it, because I'm always going to drag a white person. And if you see me screaming and hollering in a fucking box, that doesn't have anything to do with my advocacy. And it has nothing to do with the fact that I am always and will continue to stand up for Black people. And as long as I am Black, my existence is the fucking advocacy. Right.
I'll stay out your
Cool.
way.
I mean, that's not what I'm asking for. Staying out of my way isn't the problem. I didn't say anything transphobic.
when let me ask you this. What would you do if you were in my shoes? No, no, you know what?
What regard?
Because no, because that's gonna ask for labor. I don't want that. I don't want to ask you for no labor.
What, like,
No,
in
look,
what regard?
that's asking for labor. That's not my place. And if you gotta tell me, that means you see what I'm saying. So I will ask you this: in the name of again restorative justice, what repairs you?
I guess I just feel like the statements that you made about me being drama and being on Messy Todd, I think that, I mean, the damage has already been done because it seems, if I'm recalling correctly or gathering what you're trying to say, is that you've already decided that you were going to campaign against me based off of your own issue with me. So, I mean,
I gotta be honest.
the only thing,
I disagree with the call out, Charles. I do. I'm just that's just not my speed.
I mean, but isn't that what y'all do when y'all be calling out white people?
No, those are
Isn't that what you did when you was sitting up here
no, those
screaming at your camera about what Jones needs to do and calling him all kind of bitch ass niggas? Is that not a call out
yeah,
live?
yeah, yeah. But that's we got that
Oh,
nigga up
that's
off the
different.
app. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
How?
Because we got that nigga up off the app.
No, clearly not, because he was just up in his motherfucking live nodding off and
Right.
giving fake fucking
And then when he
apologies.
came back, I jumped back in his shit to remind him he need to leave the app.
But that's a call out.
And I banged his line. Had a
But
comment,
that's a call out
told
though.
him he need to stay off the app because he's a rapist, right?
And I agree that he shouldn't be around people, but that's a call out.
That's different from 4 hours of like, and nigga, you did, and this, and you did, and I got this receipt over here, and look at this peripheral thing that I seen that they said in these text messages. Now look at this Discord. That's not the same thing.
So let me ask you a question. If people were willing, right, because it's up to them to decide whether or not they want to face someone who has abused them. If the victim is willing to face the person who abused them and they are yelling at them for 4 hours, in this situation we're talking about Jones, would you consider that to be mess?
No,
Would you consider that to be a messy call out?
no.
So where do you draw the line between mess and a person standing up for themselves?
When niggas who heard about it, when when some cats who just heard about it or stumbled into the live decide they want to host a whole dig in. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh,
But
look what I
what does that
heard.
have to do with the originator? Because
And
you
did you
don't, do
hear
you
about
think,
this and this?
right? And so if in this scenario, right, in this hypothetical, if people wanted to address Jones, do you think that in TikTok culture that other people would not branch off and host their own lives about what they saw?
Oh, absolutely.
And would you still consider that call out against Mr. Jones to be mess?
Y'all can do what y'all want to do. It's just not
Right.
my
So
speed.
the arbiter of mess in this hypothetical is clearly not people branching off and hosting their own lives, because that's going to happen anyway, because people are going to host their own spaces to discuss either what they saw, how they felt, etc. So if someone calls me ugly and I decide that I want to host a 4 hour live calling them out, why is that mess versus something else? Because you think that one thing is more serious than the other?
No, I just it doesn't. After a while, it's about utility, right? After a while, it stops being about the survivors. After a while, it stops being about, and it starts to be about peripheral people looking for clout.
But that's going to happen regardless of
It
the
starts to
nature of
be
the
about,
situation, whether the situation is extremely serious or whether it's something frivolous. But I'm asking this question to
and that's when
gather,
you're
what do you
asking when it
consider to
gets
be
messy. That's
frivolous?
when I think that's when I think it gets messy.
But that's going to happen regardless. And the people who are the originators
Yeah,
of the call out live don't control other people going off and hosting their own lives about what they saw.
I am very aware of that. It's just not my speed.
But it is your speed because what do you don't think people recap what you say? You don't think that people
Of
recap
course,
your lives?
it's not. It's not something I like to do,
But you do it.
but I don't.
If one of your mutuals comes to you right now and says, Solid, I want to host a live and call this person out because they were transphobic towards me, is that mess?
No.
No. And if I see that live and I recap it, is that mess?
Yes.
Okay. So that means that what you did for the person who who is experiencing transphobia was mess as well. By your logic, in the hypothetical, if you host a live for someone to call out a transphobe that they've been harmed and I recap it, then your live becomes mess.
Why?
Because that's what you
Why
said.
not just the live recapping the live?
But that's what you said.
No. If a peripheral person who is, for all intents and purposes, not really involved, decides to have a recap, a play-by-play, a tea, spilling tea or whatever, dishing, whatever, that's not the actual restoration. That's mess.
Right. And the reason I'm asking is because you're saying that your example of me doing mess was posting a live, calling someone out and posting receipts, and you did this and you did that, right? That was your feeling.
I don't know. I feel like if it's manufactured, then yeah, that's a mess.
But how do you get to decide what's manufactured if
Or
you
if
don't
it's
know
like
all the
pumped up
players in
or
the
amped up and
conversation?
stuff like that.
But how do you know that though? How can you decide that a person who is calling someone out is over exaggerating? How do you get to say that and not be tone policing?
No, no, it's not about that. Like we're talking about if you're like 3 degrees removed from the situation, but you're holding a whole live, or when you've ingrained